Hey y'all, it's your pal Madge, and welcome back to my garden. Today we are solving problems. The biggest one is my zinnias. They are sadly in their flop era right now. I direct sowed them in May like I always do, but this has been the coldest, wettest spring that we've had in a long time. And a lot of them sprouted and then just never did another thing. So today we are accepting reality. We are getting those stunted babies out of there and we are planting new seeds. We've also got some other spring crops to turn over for summertime. And I have some exciting Lysianthus and ranunculus news for you as well. So let's get into it. Look at this, my friends. The Lysianthus are about to pop. I think this is the black pearl variety that's about to open right now. And do you see how many buds are on each one of these stems? This is going to be insane. I think it might be a fairly short but extremely abundant season. The other colors are coming online too, just not quite as far along as that black pearl color. The snapdragons are still producing much smaller stems. The lavender and yellow varieties are more of a spring variety, so I'm expecting these to put on growth, but just smaller flowers for most of the summer. But in the fall, they're going to probably come back with some big fatties with any luck. The apple blossoms, on the other hand, these are a summer blooming snapdragon. So I'm hoping that we will just continue to get these big, gorgeous blooms for the rest of the season. But we'll see how it goes. Finally, check this out. Bum, bum, bum! We have a ranunculus. I need to harvest this one today. I've harvested two already, but they are pretty teeny tiny. This is the closest to normal size ranunculus that I've gotten so far. All right, so let's talk about my zinnia problem. Looking at this bed, it looks like stuff is growing, but if you look at it from the side, you can see that a lot of things, especially on the nearer end of the bed, are really leaning forward. They're not quite getting enough sun. The far end is doing okay, but the closer you get to this end, the less growth that we're seeing. So I am going to take a bunch of these seedlings out and replace them with some more shade-loving crops. And this is the bed in my side yard. You can see that some of these plants are doing really well, like that green and white euphorbia. There's several of those that are doing just fine. And the feverfew are also looking great. But along the back edge, I've planted several hollyhocks and none of them are looking that healthy. So I think I'm going to thin some of those and put some other stuff back there. Now, hollyhocks do take a while to bloom, so maybe I just need to be patient. But look at all these little teeny tiny seedlings in the middle. These are zinnias that I planted like more than a month ago. By all rights, they should be like a foot tall by now. I think they just came up, got cold, and stopped growing. So we are going to clear those out and replace them. The thing that's really interesting to me is that the zinnias are doing so poorly in this bed, but in this bed that's right next to them, they look fine. Some of them even look great. Both beds get about the same amount of sun. I used a very similar soil mix in them. The biggest difference is that I put more straw in the bed that's flopping, and I had to fight some grass in there, like a lot of grass that came up from the straw. The other difference is the varieties I planted. In the flop bed, I planted just ballerina variety from Johnny's, and maybe they're a little bit more heat loving than the varieties that I planted in the bed that's doing fine. So let's fix this problem. I am using my Japanese hand hoe, by the way, a fabulous tool that totally enabled me to get rid of the grass in this bed. I'll link it in the description. But I'm using that to pop out all these seedlings that I'm going to take away. And now I'm using it to fluff up the soil. And I'm feeling like this soil could use a little bit more airiness to it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time fluffing it up, and then I'm going to add in some perlite. And I'm going to mix that in really well because, as we know, fluffy soil is happy soil, and I want my zinnia seedlings to be as happy as possible. Plus, this part is really fun where I just stick my hands in the dirt and do a little mixing. Good times, good times. All right, now I am getting into my seed packets to see what I feel like planting on this end of the bed. I think that I'm going to do some ballerina seeds and some seeds of other varieties that I have, like Bennery's Giant Lime and the Queen Lime series, just because I want to test my theory about whether the ballerina seeds are having a hard time in this bed or if it was just something about the day that I planted them, the weather right after I planted them, whatever. But I'm going to learn something from doing this. It's all about experimentation, right? So I'm just making little furrows with this tool and dropping the seeds right in. I am trying to get as many seeds planted as I can without overcrowding them, just because zinnias are life and I need all of them that I can possibly get. And I am positive that it's going to rain today, so I'm not worried about watering it in. So many fireflies. Good morning. It is the next day, and I was going to harvest all of my snapdragons last night. And then around 5 p.m., we had a huge thunderstorm blow in. So I was running out here like a crazy woman trying to get all of the stems before the rain could destroy them. I did get them, and then we had one of these beautiful things show up. So, my plans for today are to tackle this corner bed that's a little shadier than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to hoik out some of the zinnias and sunflowers that are not doing that great and replace them with some seeds of flowers that can handle a little bit more shade, like calendula and some nicotiana, which is a flowering tobacco. I have a dark purple variety that I've never grown before, so I'm excited to see how that turns out. First, though, I am going to feed my roses and my sweet peas because the sweet peas are not holding up that great after all the 90-degree weather that we had last week. And the bugs will not leave my roses alone. The honey Dijon is looking not too bad in terms of bug damage, but the Princess Charlene, you can see that there's some holes in the leaves and some splotches on the leaves. That all comes from bugs, which I hate. The earth angel is also suffering from this problem, maybe the one that's suffering the worst, honestly. You can see how bug eaten all of these leaves are. It's a shame. And I do come out here and squish bugs whenever I find them, but I think there are some that I just can't see. Finally, our Coco Loco Rose, she's given us so many flowers this year already, like 6 or 8 on this tiny little plant. And she has a good bit of bug damage for us to try to help her through as well. I'm not super interested in using any heavy duty pesticides or anything on these roses, even though I do see that the bugs are getting to them a little bit. I don't want to kill the nice bugs, and it's really hard to just kill the bugs that you don't like when you use those sort of chemicals. So, what I'm going to do is feed these roses so that they can be nice and strong and hopefully outgrow any of that bug damage. I'm also looking into some beneficial insects. There's one called a pirate bug that's supposed to be really good for eating thrips, especially. So I might order some of those and see how that works as well. I am using the fertilizer from Heirloom Roses. I can link it in the description. And you're supposed to use about 4 ounces or a quarter cup per gallon. So I just pour it in the watering can and then I go fill the watering can up at the hose. I will say this stuff stinks to high heaven. It's made out of like, I don't know, fish guts or something. So I'm going to really try to be careful not to get any on me. So I'm not hopefully going to have to smell it all day. But I did fertilize my roses and my sweet peas once before, and it really seemed to make a big difference. Now I am just going to go pour this foul smelling solution on my beautiful smelling roses. In general, I like to pour it on the soil, especially now that the sun is up. I think if you get it on the leaves, it can kind of burn them. So I'm just being as careful as I can be just to get the fertilizer in the soil. And I'm using 1 can split across all 4 of these pots of roses. My poor sweet peas did not come through last week's heat wave with flying colors, especially the plants in the middle look like they're really suffering. So I don't know if they're going to come back or not. It's pretty hot for sweet peas right now, but I figure I will at least give them a fighting chance by giving them some fertilizer. So if they can put on some new growth, they have the nutrition they need to do it. I'm thinking if any of the plants are able to come back, it's probably the ones on the left and the right, but time will tell. And then I figured, well, I'm already dealing with this nasty stuff, so I may as well feed the green stalks as well. This green stalk with the nasturtiums, I noticed the nasturtium leaves were starting to look a little bit pale and have some yellowing. So I'm thinking that a little bit of fertilizer will help perk them up again. Next up on today's agenda is to work on this bed in the corner, the one that turned out to be a little shadier than I thought it was going to be. I am starting out by putting down some wood chips just because I'm tired of walking around on a wet cardboard. It feels gross and it's a little bit slippery. So I'll put down the wood chips and that'll just make it a lot nicer to be over here. Now I am pulling out a bunch of these seedlings that are stunted. I've got some little basil seedlings there. I've got some zinnias and I've got some sunflowers up the back. And I'm just hoiking them out and trying to fluff up the soil a little bit so that it will be more receptive to the seeds that I'm going to put in it. And I end up going through the whole bed and just thinning things out because even the seedlings that look okay are a little bit too close to each other to really be able to thrive. And check out my tool belt, y'all. It has my name on it. All right, so this is the first thing I'm planting, and it has very teeny tiny seeds, and I'm just supposed to surface sow them. So I'm just gently scattering them over the back. And that is the tallest thing that I'm planting, so it's going in the back. Next, I'm putting in these pretty white marigolds. Again, I have never grown these before. I don't tend to be a huge marigold fan because I don't love the smell, but the white ones are supposed to have not quite as strong of a scent. So I'm going to dig a little furrow here to put them in. Ooh, I got to pull out a few more seedlings first. And then I'm making a little row and I'm just going to scatter those marigold seeds in there. Hopefully those come up quickly and I'll be able to tell if they're the type of thing that I actually want to grow or not. I tell you what though, it is super fun to put seeds in soil. It's just so satisfying on every level, from just digging in the dirt to watching the seed fall in the dirt and get covered up. And then at some point in the future, there's going to be a plant. What? What is this magic? Now I'm going to plant some calendula. Calendula have really cute seeds. They're like little dried snails. Very, very cute. And their days to maturity are like 65 days. So I'm hoping these come up pretty quickly. And then in between, I'm planting these Transformer Love in a Mist. These are very airy, small, wispy plants. So they're just going to come up between everything else. And then I come back here to the terracotta bed because these seedlings are in a bit better shape than the ones out front, but they're just a little too close together. They need a little more room to thrive. The bells of Ireland are pretty much done for the year. I have loved having them. What a fun crop to grow. And I'm getting the last few flowers right now, but I'm ready to turn this bed over because what do I need to plant? You guessed it, more zinnias. So I am using this Hori Hori knife, which is a fantastic tool, and I'm using this to the serrated edge to sort of saw off the stems of the bells of Ireland at the level of the soil. This lets me leave all of the roots in the soil so that they can decompose in place and just add more organic material to the soil for future crops to make use of. You can see how great this tool is, though. Not only can you saw things with it, you can dig with it, you can make furrows and rows with it, you can aerate the soil with it, like I'm doing right now. So, yeah, if you were going to get one tool for your garden, this is the one I would recommend. And as I am aerating this soil, I can feel how much Bells of Ireland roots are in there. Those things were really big and sturdy, and all of that will just go right back into the soil. You can see the level of this soil dropped a lot since we filled it. So that is why I am topping it up with some potting soil. And I am using the good stuff. This is from Bumper Crop, the same people who make the soil builder that I've been using and loving all season. I did get a few bags of Miracle Grow trying to save a few bucks earlier this month, and woof, it was not worth it. I will not use Miracle Grow again. Compared to this, it's just really not nice to work with. Um, and it's really only a couple dollars per bag cheaper. So I don't know. I'd rather work with the good stuff. All right, so we've got the soil in the bed. And now is the fun part. We can start putting some seeds in. So I think that I'm going to start with planting some amaranth. I've never grown amaranth before, but it looks fun and it's pretty big. So I'm planting it along the back of the bed. And the seeds are really teensy, so I'm just scattering a few back there, probably half a dozen or so, even though there's really only room for one or two plants. We will see how many of them come up, and then we will thin them if we need to. Now, for the zinnias, I think that I am going to plant some very special zinnia seeds from Blama Farms, who I will link in the description. They are zinnia growers and breeders who just make the most stunning, unusual forms of zinnia. And I tend to support their seed fundraiser every year so that I can get my hands on some of these magical seeds. So I'm going to grab my knife here and I am again making some little furrows. And since this bed is 2 feet wide, I'm going to give myself 3 rows about 6 inches apart. Again, this is probably too many seeds for the number of plants that can actually fit in this space, but we'll see what comes up. Sometimes things don't germinate. Lord knows I've had enough problems growing zinnias this season that I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to plant as many seeds as I can and hope that all, or at least some of them, grow the way I want them to. We love to see a bee taking a nap on a snapdragon. That's what it's all about. All right, we had our daily rainstorm as mandated by law, and I went to the garden center to get some more potting soil because there's a couple last things I want to do before I wrap it up for the day. First is I want to turn over the ranunculus bed, and then I want to plant a few more zinnias in the half moon bed. Most of these ranunculus plants grew very green and lush and then started to pass on. And so I'm just going to hike them out and get them out of the way so we can plant more zinnias. I did enjoy growing the ranunculus this year, even though I only got 3 or 4 tiny little flowers. It was still worth it for me just to learn about their growth habit and sort of understand how they do their thing. They make that whole little sort of nest of frilly leaves, and then they send up the shoots. And yeah, I enjoyed it as a learning experience. And I'm hoping next year I will have a little bit more success because I'll be able to start earlier and, get them in the ground about a month earlier than I did this time. Oh no. Well, it looks like I broke both of these ranunculus. I don't know my own strength, so I guess I'll hike these out too. Bye, babies. It was nice trying to grow you. Well, that's the bad news, but the good news is that I have more room for zinnias. So I'm just going through my seeds here and figuring out which I want to plant in each of these little rows that I carved up. Let me start with the agave in the back. All right, agave. Then let's do these pink señoritas because I think they have a very similar shape in the leaves to the agaves. And I'm trying to remember to plant right up to the edge of the bed because if you don't, you're just leaving flowers on the table. All right, now let's try the ballerinas. Okay, get off me. A couple extras, I'll just throw them over there. And finally, let's actually do the Dawn Creek because I have the Queenie formula mix in several other places already. And let's just see how these do. All right, now I'm going to cover all of these up and tamp them in. And it is supposed to rain again soon, so I will let Mother Nature water them in for me. All right. Now let's tamp them in. I forgot to do this on the ones I planted where the bells of Ireland used to be, so I'll go do that now. All right, I took out the sad bunny grass and I planted a bunch of zinnias, ballerina, I think. I guess we'll see when they come up. And I planted a few more over here in between the dahlias and such. I planted dahlias all up the back, but for some reason, it looks like one is coming up right here. Mysteries of the garden, y'all. Anyway, that's me done for the day. I'm filthy and sweaty and happy. Great way to spend a weekend. I'm going to leave you with some photos of the various bouquets that I made this week. Look at the teensiest little most perfect ranunculus. R.I.P. ranunculuses, I loved you. And a heart-shaped apple blossom in pink snapdragon bouquet. These giant bells of Ireland that have been on my dining table for like a week. This sweet little mixed bouquet that was kind of accidental when I harvested it. These little guys that were too small for anything else but look perfect together. The very last of the bells of Ireland plus one perfect blue nigella. And look, it's the baby ranunculus that I just broke. She gets to live in this dish of water next to her big sister. What a week. It's truly all happening. And I'm about to go stretch out like this bunny and do some serious relaxing. But first, I wanted to thank you for spending some time with me this week. I hope that you had fun playing around in the garden with me. And I hope you have a great upcoming week. I'll look forward to seeing you next weekend when we can see what's growing, see what's flopping, and see what we're going to do about it. Bye for now, friends.